And so it was. We began here in our quaint little village, exploring what would eventually become our stronghold below. First order of business was, of course, adding in a wide array of defenses, as the village was prone to attack, especially at night. Surrounded mostly by a river, we set up a wall, a nice perimeter circling the whole area, and then we had to deal with all of the caves because the stronghold was quite literally right beneath our feet. In fact, as we face this way, the end portal itself was right below the big house in the back. Little did we know just how close to the end we really, really were. But that's why I'm here, to tell you this story. My name's Axionym, and this is the story of how I and my sons, Captain T and Dragons, set about transforming this quaint, quiet little village into a beautiful powerhouse of inspiration that led us into our YouTube series, The Stronghold Below. And the first thing we had to do was get the base established. I'd been living in a shack off the side of one of the buildings, exposed, blown up by creepers a number of times, and it was time to get something serious. So the space was right next door, quite literally. I opted to turn it into a tower, and my original ideas, it would have been, or needed to be, much taller than the village would look good with. So I had to make it a little shorter, which is fine. Once I figured out that these windows with their luscious greenery and vines could be kind of copied up along at each level, as it were, made it a lot easier. I was never quite certain what I would do all with the interior, but I knew I wanted each kind of wall to house my storage areas. So I had to change it by putting in the windows, since I kind of built it with the idea of the door being on a corner. My favorite part of the tower is probably, besides the floor, the first level there, the platforms that appear at the top so that I could launch off with no need for rockets once I got an elytra. But the midsection I never was satisfied with. The copper didn't come out right. I should have had it more weathered, and I would have liked to have blended in a little bit more of that natural greenery that we have along the bottom. All in all, though, the tower you can see from the far off lands as you explore, and it's pretty spectacular. It certainly fits for what is the village. And one of the interesting things is here at the top where I had the calcite pillars and the oxidized copper at the top, that wasn't always calcite. It was copper. And my kids joked with me that I made a carrot tower. So I had to change that pretty quick. I wanted to bring in some of the magic that the village kind of spoke to me about with the end and things like that. So I wanted to make a space that maybe narratively would have been used as a study or outlook of sorts. Of course, no world would be complete if you weren't ever afraid of going into the Nether. So this space I actually built with my son, Captain T. He did the customed warped trees and most of the groundwork. I laid out the shape of the bridge and he filled it in and textured it. And then I did the crib. All in all, this build came out really phenomenal, truly inspiring, and I was inspired from CubFan135's Nether portal myself. Of course, there were other things around the village that we ended up building very nicely. I explored a little bit of cottagecore, and gotta tell you, pesky birds. I also took advantage of a video from Good Times with Scar on trees and settled in on a nice autumn tree to complete our little festival scene. We had expanded the villagers. I turned them into a carrot farm / iron farm / breeder. And we built this little cathedral to help illustrate this narrative that the village there worshipped the end. I was obsessed with it. Of course, we have the wool farm. Just a quick fly through of that. And one of my favorite builds that I did, the villager garden market. I had a lot of trouble with villagers. I lit them on fire twice with the lava when they were in their little shack. So I opened it up for them, spread it out, and I gave them this lovely, beautiful space that they could have safely. And the pride of the Stronghold Below village, the dragon statue. I am super proud of the way this build came out. I had found inspiration on a gentleman whose name I forget now, had a YouTube video with a fairly poor how-to on building like a winged serpent in Minecraft. So I kind of just extrapolated on that, and I went through a couple iterations. At one point, this was going to have crying obsidian for what would be like the fleshy purple bits of the wing. My youngest dragons suggested that we suggested that we go with like maybe amethyst blocks, which I thought was a really cool idea. And while we were working that out, I actually used wool to kind of frame it up on stream. And my son I dubbed this Derpy the Dragon. But when he was, I asked him to box it up into a shulker while I gathered the obsidian for the actual statue, and he dubbed it Derpy the Woolly Dragon. And it's super cute. I love it. Would love to have like a plush or something of it one day. But I did note in my stream that it reminds me of like Darth Pluto, and it's a little weird. But Derpy the Woolly Dragon became this phenomenal dragon statue adorning the center of village. Ladies and gentlemen, down to the Stronghold. Deep beneath the village lies an enchanted fortress, entranced by the void that is the Enderman. I wanted to create this narrative that going to the Stronghold was probably not necessarily a good thing unless you were there for like working purposes. So we put the murals of the Enderman, kind of frightening, and I built this hallway, and we kind of formed from what was a hallway going nowhere into a cavern into what is more of like a formal entrance to the Stronghold. And right off the stairway leading in was this little dungeon, which my kids broke the spawner in, but that's okay. I put our own in there. We decorated the hallways all throughout the Stronghold in kind of the same pattern with the lanterns embedded into the wall, made it look really nice throughout. And the Stronghold has a lot of dead ends and empty spaces to it. So with one of the dead ends, I actually opted to do this kind of treasury that, chests that would be filled with wares and special items, both from the end and also going there in the room adorned with emeralds and special blocks. Keeping with the prisoner theme, we caught a couple of villager zombies and stuck them down here. My son named the first one Prisoner 2B, and they never settled on the other one, so he is just unnamed, as they called him. He ended up picking up a dirt block and following me into the room one day. So that was nice. Thank you for your help, prisoner. The Stronghold itself sits on like 1 or 2 slime chunks, so there are slimes everywhere, and I thought it'd be cool to have a room that was kind of dedicated to what the village may have done with all those slimes, using them as potions and things like that. Here I was able to find 2 libraries. They were the same size, and they were just a standard library array, little rectangular square room. So I just redid one to make it a little cleaner, a little brighter. This might be where the villagers would go to do general reading and studying. But then I wanted to create this enchanted study, this place that focused on the worship of the end dragon and what is the end. It's a little darker, a little mystic. We'll see floating candles throughout and different spaces like that. One of my favorite bits is the lava pillars, which my youngest actually came up with. Making our way from the library and the tunnel that was the entrance, going around to where the end portal is, I wanted to be able to show some sort of like travel or movement. And I got this idea from some folks on the Impulse SV patron server where they had done this kind of pattern on their Nether tunnel, and I really liked it. So I wanted to bleed it in here. I thought it looked really cool. Coming up on the end of the tunnelway, it opens up into what would be for the end portal room. I tore down its walls and spread it out. and I kind of struggled with what I wanted to do with this room off and on for a while. And in the end, haha, I decided on the Ender Eye. It's kind of this muddy, murky, swampy thing. And since this is basically where all the slime spawn, perfect fit. Coming up into All Hallows Eve, I had this big area underneath, that was the 4 wells of the Stronghold. And so I basically blew everything out, opened up the walls, and went with this crypt. We inset some skeletons into the walls, and I really like how I used the different quartz blocks to represent tombs out on display. And my narrative here was maybe these were the honored that had been lost to the void or fell to the dragon, maybe in trying to conquer her to bring her back, something like that. All in all, it took me 4 charged creepers, and I was able to collect 29 skeleton skulls from my skelly spawner that I'd found, so yay. Coming back up from the Stronghold, we returned to the village, not as it was when we found it, but as it is now, as we've spent these last few weeks and months here at the village with the Stronghold below. It's fun reflecting on all the things that I got to experience kind of for the first time in building this. I had a large space to deal with, which I haven't usually done in a Minecraft world. I usually just build like my base and kind of do some mining and crafting around. It was really cool having my kids interact with me and be able to build their own stuff. My oldest is kind of obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's. So as you can see there in the distance, there's a FNAF bear head behind where his base is now. He built a bunny safe room, so he could be safe from his brother. And there's a ducky. I expanded quite a bit on the farms, and I ended up collecting all the woods, right? I used the tall spruce to make a lot of really cool podzol to use in different places, including the little autumn festive spot. Of course, the villager market garden down there that is still just, it was so fun. It was such a kind of not a unique design. Well, it is unique. It's mine, right? I was inspired any number of places, but I hope maybe people see that and they get inspired to try something different with their concepts. Of course, I have my cactus and melon farms, a spot to deal with my nether trees, the cathedral, which is almost as tall as the tower, and thinking about the size, like both of those things could have easily been double or triple what they are now. Well, that was different, wasn't it? The Stronghold really is an interesting place that we've built around here. We've built a lot of interesting things around here. My sons have helped build quite a few things. I've built quite a few. You've been here with me along the journey, and I can't wait to see what the next bit of our journey will have for us. See what kind of creative things we can build, be it in the Nether, in the end, helping out our villagers, worshipping our dragons. I don't know. But I'm interested in finding out. Maybe you'll come with me. This is Axionym. One last time. Take care. Don't forget to find your inspiration.